Uncle Gue Chin Gao is helping me protect the Dharma. I, the prince, am now cleansed and purified, no longer plagued by misfortune, and can finally settle down to cultivate in seclusion for a while. However, among the 3 top secret techniques of the Thunder Emperor passed down to me by that girl Zhang Yunqi, the body into tribulation is a forbidden chapter of the Sutra of Thunder Emperor. With my current cultivation level, I am unable to cultivate it yet. So, I'll start with the 5 Thunder Heavenly Manual. It's perfect since I haven't cultivated any chi refining techniques and arts before. The 5 Thunder Heavenly Manual contains 10 types of thunder techniques, each said to possess immense power. Mastering just one of them is enough to dominate the Eastern Desolation. Among these A, C, E, G, and I are of the Yang nature and can condense the Yang 5-element divine thunder. B, D, F, H, and J are of the Yin nature, capable of gathering the Yin 5-element thunder. However, Yin-Yang 5 thunder conflicts in attributes, making simultaneous cultivation challenging. But if one can master the fusion of 10 thunder techniques to harmonize Yin and Yang, it can condense into the legendary Grand 5 Elements Divine Yin-Yang Primordial Thunder. And as it happens, I possess the origin of this Grand 5 Elements Divine Yin-Yang Primordial Thunder within the Dragon and Tiger Pendant. Does that mean I can cultivate the 10 Divine Thunders? Just thinking about it gets me excited. I'll try practicing it first. As for the 5 Thunder Heavenly Manual, which thunder technique to cultivate first depends on one's personal 5-element attributes. Just as I began to circulate the technique and art, something in my kidneys seemed to surge forth with a restless agitation. It was the primordial heavy water. It seems that I, Your Highness, am of the water element in the 5 phases. No wonder my temperament is so gentle, just as the highest virtue is like water. And at that very moment, the 5 Thunder Heavenly Manual and the primordial heavy water merged and completely fused together. Instantly, I broke through to the body-tempering 5-layer. Moments later, chi refining also surged all the way up. It directly shot up to the 5th layer of chi refining. All of this is mainly because I had previously devoured a large amount of divine primordial thunder essence at the Sky Spirit Pavilion, which caused my speed in cultivating thunder techniques to skyrocket. However, in Uncle Gue's eyes, this was quite a blow. They had to cultivate diligently for months or even years just to barely advance one level. Your Highness suddenly felt inspired and pulled out. Spiritual stone cultivation breaks through rapidly. As promised, the Sunward Demon Tome belongs to Eastern Desolation, one of the fastest cultivation techniques and arts. Who is the true master of the Cultivate Demon technique? And now, I have reached a bottleneck in my cultivation. The Eyewater Divine Thunder is gradually taking shape. With sufficient spiritual energy, it can easily be condensed. In that case, let's give it a try and unleash it. The 5 Thunder Heavenly Manual can gather the 5 elements Divine Thunder to suppress enemies and enhance oneself. Just like when Zhang Yunqi previously unleashed the White Tiger Roaring Sky, it was invincible against opponents of the same level. And the Eyewater Divine Thunder I cultivate naturally has its corresponding phenomenon, the Xuanwu's Earthlock, which primarily focuses on suppression and defense. Once activated, it can summon the Xuanwu Divine Beast to protect oneself. The Xuanwu Divine Thunder gathers into armor, forming an impenetrable defense. Xuanwu's Earthlock. Come forth. Then a primordial beast emerged. A terrifying aura blotted out the sky and covered the earth. Uncle Gue Chin Gao froze instantly on the spot. This is my Shen Tian version of the Xuanwu's Earthlock. Just look at the expressions of Chin Gao and Uncle Gue to know. They look so inexperienced. He probably shocked by my talent, aren't they? Your Highness's cultivation speed is unprecedented and unparalleled. Truly a testament to your extraordinary talent. Chin Gao promptly handed me a mirror at just the right moment. What could it be that this prince has become even more handsome from practicing martial arts? But in an instant I was stunned. Damn, this Xuanwu is way too small, isn't it? It's so unfair. Why is Zhang Yunqi's white tiger so huge while my turtle is so tiny? No way, I absolutely can't manifest the Xuanwu phenomenon in the future. It's too embarrassing. How about trying the Awood Azurlong Divine Thunder, which is also of the water element? Then let's not practice it for now. What if the Azurlong turns into a caterpillar? That would be utterly embarrassing. It seems I can only focus on mastering the use of the Eyewater Divine Thunder for now. But wouldn't the Eyewater Divine Thunder, infused with a portion of primordial heavy water, be even more powerful? Then let's see it in action. While others cultivate, the higher their strength, the more impressive their style becomes. As for me, except for being related to a turtle shell, it's also ridiculously pay to win. My name is Shen Tian. I just wanted to showcase my self-created new move. Little did I expect that the terrifying explosive force would make the entire house tremble. Qin Gao and Uncle Gue were both stunned. The sheer power of the attack felt incredibly satisfying. But I recall that the Five Thunder Heavenly Manual recorded an advanced technique paired with the Eye-Water Divine Thunder. The Xuanwu armor, capable of condensing thunder shields all over the body. Let's test how well it defends. Then, under the astonished gazes of Qin Gao and Uncle Gue, I unleashed my own Xuanwu defensive armor. But this design looks exactly like a turtle shell, doesn't it? Wait, if this thing were to condense into armor covering the entire body, then wouldn't I become like the turtle hermit? No, that's too creepy. Let's first test the defensive power of this turtle shell. Try attacking me with all your strength. Uncle Gue, upon receiving the instruction, immediately unleashed an attack with the power of the Qi refining stage 8 layer. But just as Uncle Gue's fist heavily struck my turtle shell in that instant, the terrifying recoil actually sent Uncle Gue flying backward. Uncle Gue stared at me with a look of disbelief on his face. Not bad. Although the design is a bit tacky, its defensive capabilities are quite strong, and it even has a counterattack effect. From now on, anyone in the same rank who dares to hit me, I'll just stand here and let you try. Hee. Just thinking about it makes me feel all warm and fuzzy inside. Then let's try cultivating the Thunder Body Tempering Manual next. The Five Thunder Heavenly Manual uses 10 types of Divine Thunder to nourish the Dantian. The Thunder Emperor Body Tempering Manual uses various powerful thunders to temper the physical body. When tempered to a certain extent, it can transform into the Thunder Spirit Body, enhancing the power of one's thunder techniques. However, the cultivation method I had been practicing was the Epic Flame Manual, which I bought for just $5 on the street. I'm quite curious to see how much of a gap there is between it and the Supreme Thunder Emperor Body Tempering technique from the Epic Divine Sky Sanctuary. Wait, what's going on? Why is it that when I practice the Thunder Emperor Body Tempering Manual, the Divine Thunder and Divine Water within me become disobedient and even start attacking each other? Am I on the verge of Qi deviation again? Wasn't it said that having a green hat on my head wouldn't bring bad luck? No, I should calm down first and try circulating the Epic Flame Manual. As soon as I circulated the Epic Flame Manual, both the Divine Thunder and Divine Water were suppressed. I never expected that the supreme body tempering technique of the prestigious Epic Divine Sky Sanctuary would be less intimidating than my common Epic Flame Manual. By the way, since I could previously use the primordial heavy water body with the Ember refining body technique, could I also use it to temper my body with the divine primordial thunder? Never mind, let's just give it a try. Then whoosh, my surging aura bursts forth from my entire body. It really works, and the body tempering effect feels surprisingly exhilarating. It's just a bit too pay to win, I suppose. As I watched the spiritual stone lose its luster, I couldn't help but feel a deep sense of helplessness. It seems that even after transmigrating to the immortal cultivation world, rapid strength enhancement still relies heavily on spending money. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to another deep mountain forest, where a terrifying explosion suddenly echoes. A figure was violently thrown back by the terrifying attack. It turned out to be Zhang Yunqi, often called the Violent War God, who was being chased by a giant eagle to the point of utter despair. Just as the golden-winged great rock was about to seize him, a jade-green lotus suddenly appeared, blocking its path. The golden-winged rock king froze in place for a moment. To his surprise, his indestructible talons could not pierce through the azure lotus. Zhang Yunqi was also taken aback for a moment. After catching her breath, she pondered, "The azure lotus is protecting me?" But suddenly it seemed she thought of something. Could it be? At that moment, an elderly man suddenly materialized within the green lotus. Uncle Zhang Yunqi instantly understood. Meanwhile, the black-clad figure standing on the periphery suddenly changed their expressions upon seeing the green lotus. The azure lotus of creation, a variant, the azure sky lotus of the jade heaven, belongs to celestial lord of the jade lotus, Chu Longha. Oh my god, we can't afford to mess with this plague god. Let's get out of here. Upon seeing Chu Longha, the black-clad figures seemed to lose their minds and fled in a frantic rush. Seeing this, Chu Longha's expression darkened, and he let out a cold snort, saying, "Trying to leave? It's not that easy." Suddenly, he unleashed his full aura, his presence surging as he instantly dashed forward. Immediately after, he gathered his palms, enveloping himself in a swirling mass of cyan true qi. As he raised his palm and struck, the sky filled with cyan energy enveloped the black-clad figure like flames. The intense heat roasted the black-clad person, causing sizzling sounds as if roasting a sweet potato. Zhang Yunqi couldn't help but murmur in admiration. "So powerful, Uncle Master. truly worthy of being known as one of the most untouchable figures in the entire Eastern Desolate Lands. At that moment, Chu Longhua said with a terrifying expression, "How dare you lay a hand on my nephew disciple's daughter? Do you think any of you can escape?" The terrifying scene frightened the other two men in black into fleeing even more frantically, wishing they had 2 extra legs on their bodies. However, Chu Longhua sneered calmly and said, "Give up. You can't escape." The cyan vital energy in his hand surged once again. The terrifying magical power instantly enveloped all the black-clad figures. Suddenly, the intense heat melted away like ice and snow, instantly causing the black-clad figures to cough up large amounts of blood. Their clothes, hair, and even the pores on their bodies were burned away in an instant. Following that, their skin, flesh, the moisture within their bodies, and even the bones throughout their entire frames were incinerated layer by layer. In the end, everything turned to ashes. He specifically separated the storage rings from the black-clad men's hands. Gazing at the few storage rings floating in front of Zhang Yunqi, both Zhang Yunqi and everyone else assumed that Chu Longhua would toss them to Zhang Yunqi. But in the end, Chu Longhua simply wore them on his own hand. Zhang Yunqi was left utterly bewildered, feeling as though the script had taken an unexpected turn. Especially when Chu Longhua, after putting on all 5 rings, revealed a sinister and eerie smile. And in the end he even struck a pose. Who could handle such a show-off move? However, the swift turn of events quickly proved him wrong, as Zhang Yunqi suddenly exclaimed urgently, "Young Uncle Master, watch out behind you!" Yet, faced with a sudden terrifying claw attack, the celestial lord of the Jade Lotus, Chu Longhua, remained not only calm and composed but also managed to reassure Zhang Yunqi in an extremely showy manner, saying, "Yunqi, don't be afraid. This chicken can't hurt you. Looking at it, don't you feel an urge to turn it into a whole roasted chicken?" At the very moment the golden-winged great rock's furious claw was about to descend, Chu Longhua struck the chicken's head with a lightning-fast move. Then with another kick he sent the golden-winged creature flying. Several feathers fell from the great rock's wings. This is impossible. My wings are covered with feathers harder than black iron, like peerless divine blades. Yet they were actually cracked by this human cultivator's kick. The golden-winged great rock was still dazed from the blow when Chu Longhua lifted his foot once more. Terrified, the golden-winged great rock hurriedly feigned composure and declared fiercely, "You have enraged me. You shall be the first divine transformation stage cultivator I slay since descending upon the Eastern Desolation." Then with a swift movement, it unleashed the celestial rock 9 cuts. Seeing this, Chu Longhua sneered coldly and said, "Heh, so it's actually the golden-winged great rock, the royal clan of the Southlands Rock Clan. Scared, aren't you? But it's too late for regrets now." "Regret?" Chu Longhua said with a face full of disdain. He licked the corner of his mouth and said cheerfully, "Such fine ingredients. How should I prepare them? It's really giving me a headache. Forget it, I'll just catch them first and then figure it out." He dodged swiftly, initially avoiding a strike from the celestial rock. 9 cuts. Witness my flame body tempering manual. Chu Longhua's true chi transformed abruptly, unleashing a massive hand seal. Initially 1,000 meters away from the golden-winged great rock, the hand seal closed the distance in the blink of an eye. Staring at the hand seal, which was twice its own size, the golden-winged great rock was utterly bewildered. Only after being pinned down by Chu Longhua's chicken-catching great hand seal did it realize with horror that escape was impossible. In a panic, the golden-winged great rock cried out, "No! How is this possible? Old Taoist, you actually know the spatial divine ability. Great heaven-holding hand seal." What great heaven-holding hand seal? This move is called the chicken-catching hand seal. Come here, you little chick. The golden-winged great rock, still spouting threats, said, How dare you kill me? I am the son of the 3rd elder of the Rock Clan. If you kill me, my father will never let you go." Chu Longhua then sneered and asked, "Your father? How old is he?" "My father is 5,000 years old, with 1 foot already in the sage realm. How dare you harm me? Aren't you afraid of starting a war between the Rock Clan and the epic Divine Sky Sanctuary?" Upon hearing this, Chu Longhua sighed and murmured in a seemingly unrelated manner, 5,000-year-old chicken meat probably isn't very tender anymore, is it? It seems that once your father shows up, the only use for him will be in making soup," he remarked, ignoring the golden-winged great rock's stunned expression as he began plucking the feathers. Then, amid the golden-winged great rock's agonizing screams, feathers began to fall one after another. In no time, a freshly plucked, bald little chick was ready. The golden-winged great rock was utterly dumbfounded, especially when it saw Chu Longhua's demonic face, drooling uncontrollably, and heard him repeatedly mentioning how tender its meat was, even planning to roast it whole. The golden-winged great rock's entire heart trembled, its chicken head beaded with dense sweat, and its eyes widened into perfect circles. Here it comes, here it comes. The fragrant roasted eagle is here. Chu Longha is enthusiastically roasting a Hakka kiln chicken. No, it should be called a kiln eagle. As for the remaining few men in black, who were already trembling with fear and unease, Chu Longha simply said calmly, "Since you neither attacked nor fled, I'll let you off if each of you leaves behind 1,000,000 spirit stones. Otherwise, you'll end up just like those who turned to ashes earlier." As soon as the words were spoken, several bags of spirit stones flew over from the sky. Great. These are more than enough for this old Taoist to use for several months. Fellow cultivators, you're welcome to keep following my disciples from the sanctuary next time. As long as you carry enough spirit stones with you, this old Taoist definitely won't make things difficult for you. But next time, please don't follow my niece disciple's daughter. After all, she's a girl. Feel free to keep tailing those two silly lads, Zhang Yunting and Fang Chang. It's fine to give them a good beating. After saying that, he ignored Zhang Yunqi's embarrassed expression, handed him a chicken leg and said, "Yunqi, you're quite injured. Have some chicken to replenish your strength." Then he casually inquired whether Zhang Yunqi had truly found the celestial dragon and tiger pendant, as this sacred artifact could potentially revive the epic divine sky sanctuary. Zhang Yunqi said nothing more and directly took out the celestial dragon and tiger pendant, saying, "Uncle Master, look, the dragon and tiger pendant is right here. Since you've come, I entrust it to your care." Although Chu Longha initially declined politely, but in the end, he couldn't resist Zhang Yunqi's persistent urging. "Since you're so determined, Yunqi, I'll reluctantly lend a hand. No one will snatch it away from me, Uncle Master. After finishing this little chick, we'll set off immediately to return to the epic divine sky sanctuary." Upon their return to the epic divine sky sanctuary, Zhang Yunqi knelt in the Saint Master Hall and reported, "Father, I have fulfilled the mission and brought back the sacred artifact." However, when the celestial dragon and tiger pendant emerged, the divine firmament origin shattered and merged into the bodies of several destined individuals. If these chosen individuals cultivate our sect's thunder method, they are bound to achieve remarkable mastery. I believe we should dispatch someone to guide them into the sanctuary for cultivation. Upon hearing this, Divine Sky Saint Master Zhang Longyuan agreed without hesitation. As Zhang Yunqi rose to take his leave, only then did a voice sound from behind Zhang Longyuan. "Junior brother, you've been practicing that evil art again, haven't you? Sigh, just to complete the body into tribulation. You're willing to sever all emotions and desires?" Zhang Longyuan turned around with an expressionless face and glared as he spoke. "Yunqi said the celestial dragon and tiger pendant is with senior brother?" That glare made Chu Longha break out in a cold sweat. But then he still grinned mischievously and said, "Yes, but if you want me to hand over the celestial dragon and tiger pendant to you, you must agree to a few conditions. The first condition is to give senior brother a smile first," he said, even demonstrating by grinning widely himself. Zhang Longyuan was stunned for a moment before speaking. "Senior brother, please don't joke around." But Chu Longha said with a serious face, "Didn't you cultivate the Sutra of Heaven Mending just to complete the body into tribulation? Now that Yunqi has retrieved the dragon and tiger pendant, are you still going to continue cultivating that evil art?" Upon hearing this, Zhang Longyuan simply replied expressionlessly, "Senior brother, you don't understand. I have already glimpsed a new realm. One path of cultivation cannot produce two emperors. I intend to forge a new path." Hearing this, Chu Longha shook his head and slowly walked away, muttering to himself, "In that case, you should go ahead and forge your new path. To prevent you from losing control, I'll hold on to this pair of jade pendants for now, senior brother. That way, if you ever become unrecognizable, these pendants won't be lost again." Zhang Longyuan could no longer remain seated at this point, and was the first to show a faint smile. Following that, he even burst into laughter. Divine Sky Saint Master Zhang Longyuan, who hadn't laughed for over 100 years, has now abandoned his principles for the celestial dragon and tiger pendant. This is only the first condition. The second condition is that I saved your daughter. According to senior brother, my rate in the black market is 1,000,000 spirit stones per job. He even mentioned that a single rock chicken leg Zhang Yunqi had eaten earlier should be accounted for at 500,000 spirit stones. Zhang Longyuan cut him off directly. "I'll give you 15,000,000 spirit stones, senior brother. Please state the third condition." "Great. Junior brother, you're truly straightforward." Then Chu Longha brought up the third point. The condition is that he wants to select another spiritual peak to cultivate. However, this condition was flatly rejected by Zhang Longyuan, because Chu Longhe, obsessed with cultivating the epic flame manual, had already drained the spiritual stone mine of his own spiritual peak, turning it into a barren mountain. Helpless, Chu Longhe finally pursed his lips and said, "The last condition is quite simple. The ancestral rule of our sect is to retrieve the dragon and tiger pendant and complete the Thunder Emperor manual. The destined one can serve as the sanctuary saint. Junior brother, you already have both a son and a daughter, and you've even taken that kid Fengchang as your disciple. It's not too much to ask for the destined one who finds the dragon and tiger pendant to become my disciple, is it?" Zhang Longyuan was instantly speechless. "Damn it, you alone can drain an entire spiritual stone mine. If you take on another disciple, my entire epic divine sky sanctuary will probably turn into a wasteland." Without a second thought, he pulled out a map. "Senior brother, here's the map of the spiritual peaks. Which one catches your eye?" This infuriated Chu Longhe. "Junior brother, what do you mean by this? You'd rather give senior brother a spiritual peak than let me take on a disciple?" Zhang Longyuan slammed the armrest and declared, "Senior brother, although I have cultivated the Sutra of Heaven Mending and severed the 7 emotions and 6 desires, my wisdom remains intact." After taking a moment to compose himself, he tactfully explained, "You don't understand this person's unique circumstances. According to Yunxi, this so-called Outyin immortal master is less than 20 years old, but possesses astonishing skills in detecting spiritual veins and determining their quality. You should know that spiritual arts are even more difficult than immortal cultivation. Many profound, master-level techniques for detecting spiritual veins and determining their quality can only be performed by those at the nascent soul stage. A teenager of only 16 or 17 years old, how could they possibly be skilled in such advanced spiritual arts? Not only did they not make a single mistake in nearly 100 instances of selecting and opening mines, but they also unearthed treasures like the 7 treasures immortal gourd and the celestial dragon and tiger pendant. Back in the day, the Purple Mansion Saint entered the spiritual ore and casually picked 3 pieces of ore, which ended up yielding the golden body fruit, the dragon halberd of the square heaven, and the sutra of the immortal nirvana. Therefore, I believe this young man's fate is even more formidable than that of the Purple Mansion Saint. It can no longer be described merely as son of fate. How could there possibly be such an exaggerated fate in this world? This completely defies all logic. So senior brother, you should read more often. Never measure the thinking of those with a colossal fate by the standards of ordinary fate-bearers. These books document the lives of all great fate-bearers in Eastern desolation over the past 10,000 years. Some fell off cliffs and inherited the legacies of ancient emperors. Some were captured by monsters and ended up sleeping with them during their bloodline evolution. And there are those who picked up an ordinary ring, only to find it contained the remnant soul of a quasi-emperor. These individuals share a common trait. They all have smooth sailing journeys. If you dare to seize their opportunities relying solely on your higher cultivation level, there's a high probability you'll end up being defeated instead. This is what you realize after studying the life stories of 1,000 great masters. Some people are inherently favored by the great Tao. Then it doesn't make sense. If this kid is so important, why won't you let me teach him? Precisely because he's so important, he absolutely cannot become your disciple. This statement made Chu Longhe quite displeased. Zhang, are you certain you've severed all emotions? But in the end, Zhang Longyuan still proposed a more moderate solution. That is, to first bring the child over. Let him choose his own master. Then I'll first go to the great empire to build a good relationship with this kid. Then use a mix of threats and incentives to establish a master-disciple bond with him. Cook the rice before it's ready. Once I take on this obedient disciple, I, the old Taoist, can occasionally benefit from his fate too. The more Chu Longhe thought about it, the more pleased he felt. Without a word, he directly passed on the legacy to Zhang Longyuan. Then he happily went off to recruit disciples. But at that moment, Zhang Longyuan also revealed a sly smile. A saint must marry a saintess, and Zhang Yunxi was Zhang Longyuan's daughter. The 6th prince lay unconscious under the crooked neck tree for 2 full days before finally waking up. At that moment, everyone was in the palace of the great empire holding a farewell ceremony for him. Impressive, Your Highness. To have successfully achieved foundation establishment at the young age of 18. Truly a genius, a peerless talent. Your Highness, the 6th prince. In just a few months, Your Highness has grown even more dignified and exceptionally handsome. My daughter is only 16 and has always admired Your Highness. She hopes to serve by your side and even said that, should Your Highness give the word, her son could become your attendant at any time. At that moment, the entire hall was enveloped in a harmonious atmosphere of flattery. One can only wonder how they would have reacted if they had known that the sixth prince had been hung up and beaten for 2 days and 2 nights. And now, the sixth prince was lamenting that his 2-day coma had caused him to miss the myriad spirits' garden. Meanwhile, a peerless immortal master was also feeling quite frustrated. I wonder if he would still feel frustrated knowing that he was being hung up and beaten those 2 days. Just at that moment, Shen Tian, the monarch of the great empire, also arrived at the banquet scene. He generously offered to fulfill any wish the sixth prince might have. And I, having just arrived after buying a gift for my sixth brother. But why are all the ministers staring at me with looks of disbelief? Why is this servant looking at me as if he's seen a ghost? Even sixth brother finds it hard to believe. You unlucky child coming to my farewell banquet, how can I set off with peace of mind? Of course I cannot truly empathize with all of this. Because with my current refreshing and stunning elegance, a single smile can captivate cities and enchant nations. Instantly I've once again captured the hearts of a wave of adoring fans. Gazing at this rather ordinary-looking emperor, who happens to be my cheap father in this life I've traveled to. Although as a time traveler, I hold no particular affection for this cheap father, the body and its features are inherited from one's parents. I must still uphold the proper etiquette that is expected. With that thought I cupped my hands and bowed, saying, "Your son pays respects to His Majesty the Emperor." Shen Xiao couldn't help but be overwhelmed with emotions for a moment. Thinking back to the child whom Lan had saved with her life, now grown into an elegant young man, she would surely smile with joy in the afterlife if she knew. I had no idea about the sudden surge of emotions in my cheap old man. I just slightly cupped my hands and said, "I heard that sixth brother is heading to the Great White Celestial Grotto for immortal cultivation, so I've come to see you off." This made Shen Xiao so pleased that he immediately agreed, but the sixth prince was not happy about it. He quickly forced an awkward smile and explained that he needed to attend to the guests. Let him sit with the second prince. The second prince, Shunlong, cleared his throat lightly and said, "The sixth brother and the 13th brother share a deep bond. They should spend more time together. As your elder brother, I shall entertain the guests on your behalf. Second brother, sixth brother, I am the youngest, so let me host the guests." As soon as these words were spoken, the entire hall of guests fell silent instantly, quietly helping themselves to the dishes. They truly practice no talking during meals, no speaking while resting. The nobility indeed have high standards of conduct. This scene was also witnessed by the old monarch Shan Xiao. After some thought, he ultimately decided to let the 3 of us brothers sit together. I naturally accepted with great joy and delight. Once the banquet began, I was the first to speak up. "Sixth brother, I really shouldn't have been late to see you off this time. So to express my apology, I have specially and carefully prepared a gift for you." This made the sixth prince instantly change his expression and hurriedly wave his hands in refusal. But if brothers don't show some gesture, can they still be called brothers? "Sixth brother, see if you like it." Hearing this, the sixth prince had no choice but to reluctantly accept it. Then trembling, he slowly unwrapped the package. "You're so engrossed, sixth brother, it seems you really value my gift. So this is actually a top-tier bright silver flying sword magical artifact. 13th brother, where did you get such a treasure? It must be worth at least 30,000 spirit stones." I knew sixth brother would ask that, I replied playfully. "Oh, this sword? I found it." "Found it? Damn. Found it? With your luck. How could you possibly stumble upon something this good? Wait, could this be a defective item discarded by some immortal cultivator after use?" While the sixth prince was lost in his wild imagination, he thought, "If I use this flying sword for sword flight someday, it won't suddenly self-destruct, will it?" A purple sun suddenly appeared in the sky above the palace. A figure suddenly descended from the sky. Who is this person? Such an intimidating aura. I am no match for this person right now. At that moment, the sixth prince cupped his hands and said, "Master, why have you come in person? So this is the Venerable Xiang from the Great White Celestial Grotto." But at this moment, Venerable Xiang wore an expression full of pride and contentment. Because the resonance of the Great White Celestial Grotto token is right here, and aside from Shen Ao, who holds the most potential, there is no other man recognized by Lotus. At this thought, Xiang Venerable laughed heartily and said, "My guess was right, my disciple. It is you, it is indeed you. My good disciple, I never expected you to possess such skills. It truly brings me great joy." The sixth prince looked utterly bewildered. "Master, I don't quite understand what you're referring to." Venerable Xiang instantly feigned a look of displeasure. "My dear disciple, stop pretending to be clueless. Have you forgotten what you did to that girl, Li Lotus, in the Myriad Spirits Garden? What? What did I do to Lee Lotus in the Myriad Spirits Garden? I only remember losing control and suffering amnesia for 2 days there. Could it be that I did something extraordinary during those 2 days? Could it be that senior sister and I? Although it seems like he thought of something. But the sixth prince's face flushed crimson, and he stammered again. Master, what are you talking about? Why can't I understand? Must I spell it out for you? Now that girl is clamoring that she'll marry no one but you. The master told you. If you can really win over Lotus, achieving nascent soul from a shattered core will be a piece of cake. After saying that, he even gave a thumbs up to the sixth prince. Xiang Venerable's move made the girls around once again go wild, double-tapping likes for the sixth prince. However, as the male lead, I was completely baffled. I thought that with the disguise I could act recklessly without a care. Little did I expect their people would track me all the way to the imperial palace. No way, I gotta get out of here fast. But just then my cheap old man grabbed my shoulder, stopping me from leaving. He also said he would later plead with the immortal master to allow both me and sixth brother to join the great white celestial grotto, hoping this would help me defy fate and break this cursed destiny. But I simply couldn't take it in. My mind was fixated on how they had found this place. Could it be that they had installed a GPS tracker on me? Wait, GPS positioning. Could it be the great white celestial grottos? Oh my god, it's indeed the same token. I'm shocked. And looking at sixth brother's expression, with his eyes glowing red and lost in wild fantasies, I could only silently think, sixth brother, you're being way too reckless without knowing anything. I'd better put this token aside for now. I think it's best to lay low and not show my face. After all, in this perilous immortal cultivation world, it never hurts to be cautious. At that moment, the vast abyss ring trembled slightly. What's happening? Both the token and the jade water sword inside the vast abyss ring are trembling. Suddenly, Lee Lotus pushed the door open and exclaimed excitedly, Brother Shen Lotus is here to see you. Oh no, another one's here. This is just great. Just then Venerable Xiang grabbed Lee Lotus and scolded, Lotus, how could you sneak out again? Your senior brother doesn't know, does he? But suddenly noticing Lee Lotus balancing a pot of flowers on her head, he was instantly dumbfounded once more. That's the top-grade spiritual orchid pot that senior brother loves the most. Could it be that this girl not only ran away from home secretly but also plucked this spiritual orchid? The more I think about it, the more I feel something's off. Senior brother is definitely going to be furious. He's bound to take his anger out on Shen Ao, who indirectly caused all of this. In the end, he could only silently pray for Shen Ao. Meanwhile, Lee Lotus finally discovered her young uncle master, and learned that he had come for her brother Shen. He immediately exclaimed excitedly, Then young uncle master, have you found him? Xiang Venerable initially started off by directly entering the mode of speaking nonsense with a serious face. Then he pulled the sixth prince over and said proudly, Lotus, look, who is this? Lee Lotus was instantly dumbfounded. While she was still carefully pondering over who this ordinary-looking man introduced by young Uncle Master could be, the sixth prince scratched his head and spoke earnestly. Senior Sister Lotus, although I don't remember anything, please rest assured, if I have truly done anything to wrong you. Your Highness, I will definitely take responsibility for you. Is this what they call being eager to help and happily becoming a father? Lee Lotus was so full of questions at that moment that she couldn't understand a single word. As for such a good deed, Lotus clearly expressed her rejection with disgust. But thinking that his intuition couldn't possibly be wrong, just as Venerable Xiang was puzzling over it, Lee Lotus suddenly shouted angrily, You've got the wrong person. This is not Brother Shen. Oh no, the sixth prince is going to take the blame for me again. Young Uncle Master, you've got the wrong person. Immediately made his face flush bright red. Then from red to green, his teeth grinding audibly. How dare you deceive your master like this? Oh my god, the master is furious, and the sixth prince is stunned. He coughed repeatedly, expressing his confusion. Didn't you say that Lotus Fairy would only marry me? Why are you backing out of the engagement when I'm willing to take on the responsibility? This remark only made Venerable Xiang's face turn from green to black. Unfilial disciple. Still making excuses. Why did you impersonate the Outyin Immortal Master? Your Highness, are you saying that I impersonated the Shen OP Immortal Master? So, does that mean there's a story between the Shen OP Immortal Master and the Lotus Fairy? Is it just because my name is too similar to Shen OP Immortal Master that my master misunderstood? Now I'm doomed. In a moment of frantic thought, the sixth prince pieced together the entire cause and effect. My future was once bright, But if I were to cause my master to lose face in front of so many people in the Great Hall because of my own actions, if this isn't handled properly, then I could even be directly expelled from the sect. The more he thought about it, the more terrified he felt, even experiencing a chilling scalp and a splitting headache. It seems there's no choice but to take this last resort. At this moment, the blame must be shouldered. Realizing everything, the sixth prince immediately knelt down, repeatedly bowing to his master in apology, taking all the blame upon himself. In the end, he even closed his eyes, expressing his willingness to accept punishment and begging only for his master's forgiveness. The originally gloomy and dark expression on Xiang Venerable's face gradually faded away. Then he waved his hand and said, "Who told you to be my disciple? As your master, I'm not an unreasonable person." Very well, very well. Step aside for now." Then he resumed the discussion with Lee Lotus about the matter because according to the positioning, this was definitely the right place. Lee Lotus also mentioned that her own sensing pointed to this location as well. And I started to sense that something seemed increasingly off. Just as I was about to make a quick escape, suddenly, Lee Lotus and his nephew joined forces to cast a spell once again. My vast abyss ring began to tremble violently. Then the token and the jade water sword flew out directly from within. "It's over." Instantly, the dazzling green light illuminated the entire hall. "Young Uncle Master is over there." The two of them instantly flashed in front of me. Damn, I'm speechless too. I originally wanted to explain something first. Lee Lotus suddenly saw stars before her eyes. "It's him, it's him, it's him." Instantly, she pounced like a fierce tiger descending the mountain. "Don't you dare come any closer." The crazy Lotus girl wanted to play poker with me right then and there. Can you not be so impatient? We're in public." But now Lee Lotus actually recognized me at a glance. It seems my disguise skills aren't that great. This prince is being exposed right here, waiting online, quite urgent. Yet, the onlookers are now imagining that the second miss of Great White Celestial Grotto personally carried a flower pot all the way to find her husband. Xiang Venerable was also chattering away on the side, feeling quite pleased with himself, even going so far as to firmly believe that I am Shen OP Immortal Master. I had originally wanted to struggle a bit, but faced with Lee Lotus's impatience, like that of a resentful woman, I'm not pretending anymore, laying my cards on the table. I'm completely letting go. It's just that this junior has already formed a good connection with the Great White Celestial Grotto. Why must the Immortal Master remain so fixated? But this scene left the sixth prince utterly bewildered. What exactly happened? Who am I? But I, the Crown Prince, am clearly the once-in-a-century genius of the royal family. And the 13th prince, he has been the ultimate jinx since childhood, the kind who gets struck by lightning just walking down the street. So, 13th brother, is this how you send me off at my farewell banquet? Isn't this just stealing the spotlight from me? Why is it that I, as a prince, have to work so hard, cultivating non-stop all year round, just to barely earn my master's approval? While my 13th brother, just because he's handsome, has won the heart of the Lotus Fairy. The intense resentment made him dig his nails deep into his flesh without even realizing it. The escalating fierce resentment made the sixth prince blame all the faults on me. Even now, his eyes are glowing red with fury. His face darkened as he stared intently at me. Meanwhile, Niner inside the prayer beads in my hand also reminded me. "Master, I sense a strong aura of resentment. And this resentment is emanating from your sixth brother." Sister Yunqi Li, his shout completely shattered the original tranquility. Zhang Yunqi's exclamation, "So it's you," and Lotus's response left me utterly shocked. "Yunqi Lotus Fairy, do you know each other?" It turns out that the 12 sanctuaries and the 36 celestial grottos have intricate relationships, with most core disciples being friends within the circle. Therefore, Zhang Yunqi and Lee Lotus not only know each other, but are also childhood best friends. Zhang Yunqi, with a slightly stern expression, asked Lee Lotus why she was there at that moment. Lee Lotus, however, quickly waved her hands to signal that Xiang Young Uncle Master meant no harm. Zhang Yunqi was momentarily stunned, looking down at his own right fist that had long been itching for action, unable to believe that the one he had just sent flying with a single punch was actually an elder from the Great White Celestial Grotto. Then she thought to herself, this must be just an ordinary elder from the Great White Celestial Grotto, in which case there was nothing more to be said. Besides, that guy earlier looked like he was about to attack Shen Tian, so it was perfectly reasonable for me to strike first. Zhang Yunqi, who felt more and more convinced that she had done nothing wrong, cleared her throat and said, "Since it's a misunderstanding, let's just leave it at that." Then, in a tone reminiscent of an elder, she lightly scolded Lee Lotus. "You've planted a 7 treasures immortal gourd seed. Yet instead of tending to it properly, what are you doing here? Upon hearing this, Lee Lotus immediately blushed with a mix of shyness and awkwardness, stammering as she explained that she had come looking for Brother Shen. As she spoke, she excitedly lifted a pot of greenery, proudly declaring, "This is the fruit of love between Brother Shen and me." Upon hearing this, Zhang Yunqi's face instantly darkened halfway. Who could possibly handle such a remark? I quickly explained that all of this was her own imagination and had nothing to do with me. Upon seeing this, Zhang Yunqi calmly said, "Did you hear that?" But Lee Lotus was not pleased and immediately flared up, shouting, "Brother Shen, aren't we engaged?" What? I had intended to explain further, but unexpectedly, Zhang Yunqi stepped in front of me, shielding me directly. Then with an overwhelming aura she calmly stated, "Now, it's gone." She ignored Lee Lotus's look of astonishment. Zhang Yunqi's aura suddenly surged once more as he calmly stated, "Lotus Shen Tian has retrieved the forbidden chapter of the Emperor's scripture, Body into Tribulation, for the epic divine sky sanctuary. According to the sanctuary's ancestral teachings, he will assume the position of saint in the epic divine sky sanctuary. Moreover, although not particularly willing, according to our sect's ancestral teachings, as the epic divine sky saintess, I must marry the saint." What the fuck? Not to mention everyone was taken aback by this scene. Even the king and the sixth prince were momentarily stunned. Lee Lotus's mind went completely blank. Only shopkeeper Song screamed at the top of his lungs. Isn't this a clear case of promotion and a raise? Becoming the CEO and marrying a beautiful, wealthy woman? Some even exclaimed in disbelief, "Holy cow, they're fighting over a man." Only I couldn't help but tremble uncontrollably. What are they doing? The sixth prince was so furious that he nearly shattered all his teeth. He had thought, how honorable it would be to become a true disciple under the tutelage of a great white celestial grotto elder. But now, his revered master was actually sent flying with a single punch from the young epic divine sky saintess. What's more, she even intends to take the initiative to marry the 13th prince. What's even more infuriating is that she's not only refusing the bride price but also offering the position of saint. 13th brother, is he truly a calamity sent by the heavens? The sixth prince has broken down. Oh my god. One Lee Lotus is already enough to make one's scalp tingle. How can anyone handle another one like this? Especially Li Longsong, the Siscon, and the Sword Lord of the Long River, the doting father. No matter how I try to avoid it, it seems like death is my only fate. Now they're even sending over some saint title, and it's a buy one get one free deal with the saintess. Then those prodigies in the sanctuary who like Zhang Yunqi will definitely try every means to kill me. To think that despite my extreme caution, I still encountered Xiang Venerable bullying the weak with his strength. If I had taken in Zhang Yunqi, wouldn't I have been instantly surrounded and killed by those at the divine transformation stage? Feeling more and more uneasy, I quickly clasped my hands and declined Zhang Yunqi's kind offer, humbly stating that I was truly unworthy of the position of saint. Then, with an expression of pure concern for others, I advised Zhang Yunqi not to compromise himself because of any ancestral teachings. Most importantly, I had made a vow that I would never enter into a Dao partnership in this lifetime, unless I reached the nascent soul stage. There was no need for Fairy to feel troubled. Upon hearing this, Zhang Yunqi fell into silence for a moment. Everyone thought I had lost my mind, turning down such a rare and extraordinary opportunity. Some even gritted their teeth, tears streaming down their faces, convinced that I had been infected by bad luck, clouding my judgment. And just at that moment, Xiang Venerable suddenly placed his hand on my shoulder from behind. Then with a hint of smugness he remarked, "Since little friend Shen has made it clear, you no longer need to abide by the ancestral teachings. Then let this venerable one take you, young friend, back to the great white celestial grotto to meet my senior brother." Zhang Yunqi was immediately displeased and retorted with great disdain, "A mere elder of the great white celestial grotto, what do you take the ancestral precepts of our sanctuary for? Since the ancestors of the sanctuary established this ancestral precept, it is a commitment that our sanctuary must fulfill. No matter how reserved I, the saintess, may be, I must never betray the sect. Venerable Xiang, by saying such things, do you intend to compete with our epic divine sky sanctuary for the saint?" As she spoke, Zhang Yunqi gathered a sphere of lightning in her palm once more. Golden flames instantly enveloped his entire body, his aura rising layer by layer. Xiang Venerable was so frightened that cold sweat broke out on his forehead, and he immediately backed down in fear. Then, he suddenly removed the token of the great white celestial grotto from his waist, respectfully requesting senior brother to manifest. With a furious roar, The token immediately hovered in the air on its own, surrounded by surging purple light. Then a man with a face full of stubble slowly emerged. This was actually the Long River Sword Lord Li Kanglin. The moment he appeared, a surge of purple light radiated around him, exuding an imposing aura. Facing Zhang Yunqi, the innate constitution of the Grand Five Elements Divine Yin-Yang Primordial Thunder Origin, Li Kanglin also offered a calm and composed critique, exuding the demeanor of a true master. However, upon spotting the flower pot behind Li Lotus, his eyes instantly widened in astonishment. Then, as if struck by another thought, he let out a helpless sigh. But then, with eyes blazing red, he roared furiously, "Come out! Oh my God, they've come knocking! Only a fool would step out now." Just as I was trembling with anxiety, my teeth chattering uncontrollably, Zhang Yunqi stepped forward calmly and said, "Changhe young uncle, Master Shen Tian is already a saint of our epic divine sky sanctuary. As a senior at the divine transformation stage, it would be inappropriate for you to trouble our sect's saint like this. If word gets out, it wouldn't reflect well on you." Continuing from last time, faced with Zhang Yunqi's relentless pressure, Li Kanglin laughed heartily. He sneered disdainfully and said lightly, "Why should I care about others' opinions? The epic divine sky sanctuary has always been on good terms with our sect. Since he is the current saint of your epic divine sky, I shall take him back to the Great White Celestial Grotto and carefully instruct him on behalf of Saint Master Senior Brother for a while before sending him back." After saying this, he couldn't help but let out a sinister, eerie laugh. Upon hearing this, Zhang Yunqi spoke again with an expressionless face. "So, young Uncle Master Changhe, you are not planning to honor this request?" To this, Li Kanglin was even more dismissive, bluntly stating, "Your father might be qualified to say that, but you still have a long way to go." These words made Zhang Yunqi clench his fists tightly, his face clouded over. For a moment, he was at a loss for words to refute. Just then, a bright light suddenly flashed above. "Can I say it's okay?" A figure suddenly emerged slowly from the spatial rift above. This was actually the celestial lord of the Jade Lotus, Chu Longhe. "Long time no see, second junior brother." Chu Longhe let out a sinister chuckle. Li Kanglin was momentarily taken aback, then somewhat awkwardly greeted Chu Longhe. But Chu Longhe wasn't having any of it. With a sinister chuckle he replied, "Not so great, just broke." Hearing this, Li Kanglin immediately felt the urge to back off. Without another word, he immediately enveloped himself in true qi, ready to make a swift exit, the best strategy being to run. However, noticing something unusual, Chu Longhe's expression turned serious. He snorted coldly and instantly moved to block the way, saying, "It's been centuries since I've seen a cockroach, junior brother, yet you're still this cautious. However, cockroach junior brother, you probably don't know that this kid Shen Tian is the closed-door disciple that senior brother has taken a liking to." However, Li Kanglin didn't even bother with these and immediately turned to run, leaving Chu Longhe utterly dumbfounded. Once he snapped back to reality, Chu Longhe swiftly caught up to Li Kanglin and sneered, "After attacking my beloved disciple, senior brother, do you think you can just walk away without leaving some compensation, cockroach junior brother?" As he spoke, he reached out a hand directly, causing Li Kanglin's expression to turn frantic. Left with no choice, he hurriedly turned around, forming hand seals to cast a spell. Boundless River Sword Chi. However, facing Li Kanglin's awe-inspiring sword Chi, Chu Longhe chuckled softly, raised his hand to form a seal, and instantly Azure True Chi surged through his entire body. As he spoke, he couldn't resist licking his lips with thirst before shouting, "Epic Flame Divine Art! 8-Direction Devour!" At that moment, a figure appeared before Chu Longhe. A massive Cyan Maw emerged. In one gulp it swallowed all the sword Chi. That massive Cyan Flame Maw actually devoured the sword Chi. Seeing this, Li Kanglin's hair stood on end instantly. Realizing he was no match, Li Kanglin turned and fled without a second thought. Of course, before leaving, he didn't forget to put on a calm front and drop a fierce line. "Chu Longhe, if my true self were here, I would surely battle you to the end." However, Li Kanglin slipped away, leaving behind a bewildered Xiang Venerable. At that moment, the large cyan mouth unceremoniously swallowed him whole. Afterward it couldn't help but chew a bit and lick its lips, so delicious. Then, as if spitting out a melon seed shell, it spat out the completely stripped Xiang Venerable. Covered in saliva, Xiang Venerable collapsed to the ground in a daze, muttering incessantly, "This is too humiliating. To think that I, the esteemed Xiang Venerable of the Great White Celestial Grotto, was first slammed against the wall like a fly, and now stripped bare as if being spat out like a seed shell." In the end, He could only slink away in utter dejection. Even the sixth prince, upon witnessing this scene, felt deeply distressed and disheartened. He clenched his fists tightly, his teeth grinding with a sharp, audible grit, deeply anxious about whether his master could emerge from the shadows. In the end, he still attributed all the misfortune to his 13th brother. Seeing sixth brother's gaze, filled with what seemed like the hatred of a stolen love, I was completely stunned. In order to go together to the epic divine sky sanctuary, Li Lotus even went so far as to act cute and coquettish toward Zhang Yunxi. She even suddenly called out to me in a startled manner, "What is this little girl up to?" So this is why the girl is so full of energy. It turns out she wanted to go with me to the epic divine sky sanctuary for cultivation. Oh my, not to mention whether I agree or not. Upon hearing this, Zhang Yunxi immediately bristled with anger and scolded her, telling her to go home quickly. However, just by looking at Li Lotus's expression, it was clear that this was basically impossible. Moreover, Li Lotus's second uncle is one of the 9 divine transformation stage elders of the epic divine sky sanctuary. Therefore, Li Lotus decisively rejected Zhang Yunxi's commanding suggestion. But as soon as the words fell, a spatial wormhole appeared above. A colossal hand reached down and seized Li Lotus. It turned out to be Xiang Venerable, though now he was clad only in a rag to cover his shame. Yet his dignified demeanor remained undiminished, with hands calmly clasped behind his back, exuding confidence and composure. Then with a single scroll, he whisked Li Lotus and the sixth prince away from the scene. This finally allowed me to secretly breathe a sigh of relief. That very night, various versions of my story spread throughout the great empire. Only I lay sprawled on the bed and fell asleep immediately. Yet even in sleep it was filled with nightmares. When the airship from Epic Divine Sky Sanctuary came to pick us up the next day, my loyal fans, including Shopkeeper Song, were fortunate enough to be invited to join the ranks of Epic Divine Sky Sanctuary. Yet I myself had not yet spoken. Shopkeeper Song immediately launched into a barrage of words at me, relentlessly bombarding me until I was completely dumbfounded. Especially when he broke down in tears, prostrating himself on the ground, and kept swearing with conviction that he would follow me forever. Damn, even I almost thought I was the leader of some kind of organization. With just these 4, if it weren't for the divine primordial thunder essence they possess, they probably wouldn't even be accepted as outer sect disciples. Even Zhang Yunxi couldn't help but sigh deeply, facepalming. Therefore, she reminded me to quickly resolve the matter of the Immortal Master cult, as the Epic Divine Sky Sanctuary only permits independent organizations, not independent sects. I completely agree with that. After all, if I were to bring these 4 along, wouldn't they just attract all the animosity toward me? To that, I can only say let's leave it to senior sister Yunxi to handle. Zhang Yunxi pondered for a moment and thought that since my name is Shen Tian, it would be best to add a character Tian, meaning sky or heaven, to make it sound more imposing. Hearing this, the big guy immediately exclaimed excitedly, I know. To make it even more impressive, it should have Tan in the name. Then let's call it Celestial Court. Oh my god, I'm completely losing it. When I heard the words Celestial Court, my whole body instantly went numb. How dare our little 3-no organization use a name like Celestial Court? I bet it won't even end up being called Celestial Court. It'll probably just turn into the Heaven's Punishment Organization instead. Shivering violently, I quickly raised my hand to stop them and said, not appropriate. It's way too flashy. Hearing this, another little minion suggested, how about changing it to Celestial Master? What do you think of calling it the Celestial Master Organization? But Shopkeeper Song suddenly slapped his thigh and exclaimed, Immortal Master's real name is Shen Tian. In my humble opinion, reversing the name gives a homophone for Celestial God. How about we name our organization the Celestial God Organization? Celestial Master watches over with divine protection. It's truly noble beyond words. Wow, the Celestial God Organization? Shopkeeper Song, are you perhaps a time traveler yourself? Why not suggest calling it the Avengers Alliance instead? Feeling that they were getting more and more absurd, I quickly raised my hand to stop them and finally settled on the name Heaven's Favored Organization. After all, I also hope that heaven will favor the halo above my head, making it greener and greener. Otherwise, if I sit in Saint's position and get resented, I might end up being sacrificed. But as soon as I finished speaking, Shopkeeper Song excitedly jumped out, showering me with flattering and exaggerated compliments. Damn, why doesn't heaven just strike these guys with a bolt of lightning? They're not even human, they're like lightning rods standing right next to me. But as soon as that thought crossed my mind, Shopkeeper Song was struck by a golden thunderbolt. It turned out that this was caused by Zhang Yunqi's spell. At the same time, Zhang Yunqi also warned the group that once they entered the sanctuary, they must not speak recklessly, and even ended up scolding them. After saying that, she grabbed my hand and ran. As soon as we entered the room, Zhang Yunqi asked me how far I had progressed in my cultivation. But I definitely couldn't let senior sister know that I had mastered the eye water divine thunder so quickly. After all, the nail that sticks out gets hammered. Only when everyone thinks I'm weak and insignificant can I continue to develop discreetly, right? So I can only pretend to feel ashamed and admit that I haven't manifested any phenomena yet. Hearing this, Zhang Yunqi chuckled and comforted me, saying there was no need to be disappointed, as the Five Thunder Heavenly Manual is indeed profound and obscure, making it truly difficult to cultivate. At this, I just scratched my head guiltily and quickly agreed. However, Zhang Yunqi changed his tone and said, "But there is indeed a shortcut. As is well known, the five elements mutually generate and restrain each other. G-metal generates eye water, which means that senior sister's G-metal divine thunder, according to the five elements, actually enhances me." After saying this, Zhang Yunqi once again shocked everyone by saying, "Junior brother, let's dual cultivate. I feel like senior sister is being too good to me. It's just that it somewhat feels like she's making dirty jokes." At that moment, a sudden explosion echoed from the sea beneath the airship. Everyone was momentarily stunned and disoriented by the shock. Zhang Yunqi hurried out and shouted, "What happened?" He then found Chu Longhe and asked him why he had shut down the flying boat's defensive formation. To this, Chu Longhe seriously explained that he was afraid it would waste too many spiritual crystals. However, Zhang Yunqi understood that Chu Longhe's real intention was to secretly take away the spiritual crystals.